Castellanos, he lays out and makes the catch.
And we are back for another episode of the Double Switch Podcast. Happy Saturday, everybody, or happy Sunday, or happy whenever you are watching this. It is currently a rainy day here in the Mid-Atlantic, but Johnny, not even the weather can kind of damper the mood here because the Phillies did something, it's tough to kind of put it into words, but what the Phillies did against this Atlanta Braves team is impressive. It's just flat out impressive. They take 3 out of 4 against the Atlanta Braves. They send the 104-win division leaders home way earlier than they thought they'd be going home. And kind of just like last year, it's looking good so far. How are you doing today, Johnny?
Oh, man, I can't wake up upset after that, The past 2 mornings, it's just been – I just wake up and the first thing I see is my Phillies banner. I'm like, oh, wait, the Phillies beat the Braves again. Josh, if I told you in let's say June, when the Braves were like the best team since sliced bread. I mean, it was crazy. The hype was crazy. That in just a couple months, that the Phillies would thump them so bad that their whole fan base and team would consider reconstructing their whole entire lineup to match how the Phillies reconstructed theirs. Would you believe me?
No, I wouldn't believe you. And when you would have been telling me that, they would have had Strider free. They would have had Morton. They would have had Kyle Wright coming back from injury. Bryce Elder would have been pitching amazing. I would have told you that's a juggernaut. And the Phils. You really kind of have to explain it this way. The Phils just flat out outplayed the Atlanta Braves this whole week. It's not even a debate at this point who was the better team during the series. They outplayed them in just about every facet of the game. They outhit them. They outpitched them. They look like the better team. And it's not really anything to discredit the Braves here. I mean, that's a terrific team over there, but the Phillies were straight up better. They were the better team. The better team's moving on right now. And it's just incredible, especially I guess we'll kind of launch into the kind of recap part of this episode. Where we left off was Tuesday or Wednesday. And it was the day after they had just that heartbreaking loss in Atlanta. And to lose that game and to come home and completely just pivot and send this series in a completely different direction, ultimately. I mean, that was a momentum swing in Atlanta, and the Phils said, nope, not doing that. And they got back to Philly, and they just pushed the momentum straight back in the other direction, and they completely forgot about it, and the Braves couldn't capitalize on the momentum they had. And it really just shows how hardened this team has become. This is a battle-tested team that, not many teams can do that. And you have to have a mixture of experience. You have to have a mixture of personalities capable of doing something like that. And we seem to have the perfect blend. And Wednesday, just straight into it right now. To beat a team like that, I mean, we blew them out, Wednesday. It wasn't just we held on for a close game. We came out and we just destroyed the Atlanta Braves, the best team in baseball, at home. Offense was lights out. Aaron Nola was amazing, who has become just a model of consistency in these last handful of starts. The bullpen was awesome, and the Braves had nothing to show for it. It was just an incredible game to sit through, and man, to be able to pivot like that is just incredible.
Yeah, I'll go back to that game too, just because that's the last time we talked to our audience, and the Phillies did not flinch to that whole momentum's gone thing that everyone was starting to. I know me and you were talking about how it did have that feeling of Game 3, Chas McCormick making that catch that basically shut off the Phillies. We got shut off in the World Series. And you put that in my head. I was like, oh, shit, that is a possibility, isn't it? But they were right. They punched right back. They did not flinch at that comeback from the Braves. And they honestly just took it personal. And Maybe the attaboy Harper stuff kind of got involved, but that stuff is just all kind of trivial in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I guess we need to start off with that because I thought that was so overblown. I love how it ended up playing out, but you could tell that the media loved every second of that, and they were going to capitalize on it. And as for all the Braves fans saying like it shouldn't have gotten out of the clubhouse, I didn't understand that. I mean, when you're in the clubhouse, you have to like, especially in the playoffs, there's media around. Like you have to know that what you're saying is going to be heard by somebody. I didn't get that from the start, you know?
Yeah. The whole situation, I definitely dug into it on Twitter and just like got everyone's perspective. But end of the day, the 2023 Braves are a very soft baseball team in the clubhouse. And this is a rivalry. I mean, bulletin board material is made out of nothing. That is what sports is since the 1900s. Like sports, people say something, the whole team rallies around that, and then they kick your ass. That's a rivalry.
It is. And if there's one person you really don't want to antagonize, it's probably Bryce Harper at this point, because Bryce comes out and in the list of moments that the great moments of his career, this probably isn't even near the top, but it's just that's more of a testament to what he's been able to do. His list of incredible, amazing things that we have been able to sit through is so long at this point that what he did Wednesday wasn't even surprising. Coming out, first at bat, he struck out. Second at bat, he comes up with the runners on, and he launches a moonshot into right field. And I speak for a lot of people who have been watching Bryce Harper for a long time. I expected that. I completely expected him to do something like that. And he has a flair for the dramatic, like someone we've never seen. And his night wasn't even close to over because he comes up against Brad Hand later in the game, and he goes yard off of Brad Hand, which is kind of funny because Brad Hand was such a source of frustration for us last year, and now we're watching him frustrate Braves fans. And then he stares Orlando Arcia down twice, and there's this photo who I don't know who took it, but it's going to go down as one of the coolest photos that's ever been taken.
It's icy.
Especially in Philadelphia. You know, it's the equivalent of the AI photo stepping over.
There will be a shrine painting of that within like 2 weeks, guaranteed.
Legendary photo. I'm sure Orlando Arcia wanted to dig a giant hole and just bury himself in it because he probably was not feeling it at that point. Atlanta was not happy. The Atlanta fans were not happy. You saw the interviews in the clubhouse afterwards. Everybody was bummed out. And at that point, I kind of started to feel the tide turning, and I thought that the Braves were mentally just kind of out of it at that point. But back to the game. Let's not kind of speed through that too fast. Bryce Harper, 2 home runs. Nick Castellanos, 2 home runs, and that's kind of a prequel to the second part of the recap. Aaron Nola, we can't say enough about what he did Wednesday. I know that you look at the stat line, 5 2/3, to hold off that Atlanta offense, which was coming off of just such a strong comeback, to do that for 5 strong innings, keep the Phillies in the game. For the first couple innings, they were kind of struggling a little bit. You know, you saw that they were a little tight. They were Elder was kind of cruising for a little bit there before Nick was able to get the first solo home run. For Aaron Nola to keep us in that game, it's huge, and it could have gotten away from the team. But he has guts that people really have not given him credit for throughout his career. I don't know if he's necessarily like Cliff Lee big game pitcher, but I trust him in those spots, and he did his job. And when you see him and Wheeler going like they are, and even Ranger, when you see those 3 guys pitching like the way they've been pitching, it's hard not to feel confident.
Yeah, and we all know that those Cliff Lee playoff pitchers don't grow on trees. Like you look at like guys like Kershaw who are like all-time greats, but just don't have postseason numbers. It's hard to like be a good playoff pitcher. It's the most pressure you'll ever face as a pitcher. So yeah, tip of the cap to Aaron Nola, because I had a lot of haters going in, a lot of people that just had no trust, and like the people had some warrant, like behind, like some merit behind that, because it was a rough regular season, but he battled. He was a competitor, and he kept us in every single start. It's huge.
The parallels between Cole Hamels and Aaron Nola are starting to get pretty interesting, because you have
Really
these
say
glimpses between, like, both of them in their time here. They've just gone through stretches where they were really good, and you think that there's something just incredible brewing there. And then they have stretches where they're not so good. And I think back to Cole Hamels 2009, where he wasn't very good. You saw him in 2008 be like the best pitcher on the team. Comes back in 2009, and he's kind of had like an Aaron Nola type season this year, and it's like a long tenured really Philadelphia pitcher who has ups and downs. And when they're good, they're better than, they're legit. They're a top 10 pitcher in baseball. But then you just have these lows where you start to question what's going on there. And they're both homegrown pitchers. It's a stretch, but there's some parallels there for sure.
For some reason, I was thinking I think it was yesterday. I was probably working and needed something to think about with the Phillies. And I was thinking about how like Ranger Suarez kind of reminds me of Cole Hamels.
Ranger Suarez, I don't want to get too far into comparisons. I think Ranger Suarez has a little Cliff Lee in him.
Damn.
It's gotten to the point. Yeah, he has a lefty control pitcher who is just an incredible playoff pitcher. We'll talk about Rangers soon, but it's funny because I've heard Wheeler Doc comparisons, which I kind of get. I've been seeing Nola Cole, which, like I just said, makes sense. And Ranger, just the way he pitches, you will never be able to tell like what kind of a game or what the stakes are by looking at Ranger Suarez. He's icy out there, and he's just so calm. And at this point, I guess he gave up. What did he give up? 1 run on Thursday?
Yep, just
5 innings, 1 run. His ERA before that was 0.96 in 18 innings. And I think it probably went up a little bit. It might be right around 1 now, but you're talking 3 or 4 starts now, and his ERA is 1. And the only type of stretch that I've kind of seen that out of a playoff pitcher was a Phillies playoff pitcher was 09 Cliff Lee. It's dominance and it's staying calm in the moment. And you feel so comfortable with him pitching. And sometimes I wish we kind of just let him go, because I think he'll grind it out. I really do.
Yeah. Now, looking back at like kind of how like Thompson took him out early, I do think I think everything we could touch on this later, but I think everything Thompson touched turned to gold because he had so much trust. But taking him out early, game 1, might have really helped his effectiveness this game, because they didn't see him as much. And he kind of came at them with like different approaches. Like it was curveball heavy game 1, and then he had everything working. What was game 4? Yeah.
Yeah, let's wrap up game 3 here, because that's kind of one of the big themes of game 4. Aaron Nola gives us 5-6 strong innings, and at that point the game was kind of out of reach. It's been a mixture of Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, who's been incredible, and then JT Realmuto, who's surprisingly been pretty good this postseason. Those 4 kind of carried. I think everybody else in the lineup, maybe not Brandon Marsh, but like Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, Schwartz, Rojas especially, they're all kind of struggling with the bats. But it's the other 4 or 5 have been so good that it hasn't mattered. And game 3 goes to the Phils.
The Braves with that. Game 3, with those 4 players not awake.
Yeah, game 3 goes to the Phils, and it wasn't super surprising given the stakes. I mean, Aaron Nola versus Bryce Elder. I don't think the Braves fans were completely comfortable with that. They might have looked and acted comfortable, but no, I don't think they felt too good with the way Elder was pitching. But yeah, game 3 goes to the Phils. Game 4, obviously being up 2-1's huge, but the Phils, that's a big game for the Phils, because you don't want to go back to Atlanta. That's the game they circled that they had to win. You do not want to go back to Atlanta. I mean, I know you have Wheeler on the hill game 5, but this is where you want to kind of close it out. And Strider and Ranger Suarez. Strider pitched really well. If you're an Atlanta fan and you want to be mad at something, don't make it be Spencer Strider, because he pitched phenomenal this series. And Ranger Suarez went toe-to-toe with him twice and came out on top twice. And it's incredible that our little Ranger Suarez, our guy, Ranger, who doesn't get a ton of attention outside of Philadelphia, he went up against probably the most. There we go, Ranger Suarez jersey. I wish I saw more Ranger Suarez jerseys, but I'm glad you got one. Yeah, it goes up against Spencer Strider, the best the Braves have to throw out there. One of, if not the most talented pitcher in baseball. Watching him is just incredible. I mean, he sits 99, 100, and he can do it for 6-7 innings, and he has poise too. For Ranger Suarez to go up against him twice and to not just keep us in the games, but come out on top twice. Ranger, incredible. Anything to add in terms of Ranger Suarez?
I think you hit it all with Ranger. Ranger just sticking to being himself in the playoffs. He really just doesn't think any more about it. And I also like giving credit that you gave some credit to Strider. I was impressed by him. I actually came out of this series a bigger Strider fan than I did coming in. I actually think he's really well spoken, and I think he is one of the few leaders on that really talented team. I think he's vocal and he's our age, so that's pretty wild. And it's kind of a hot take, but maybe come to the Phillies later in your career.
Yeah, ditto to that. Yeah, Spencer Strider, especially his interview after the game, I was impressed by what he said. Him and Austin Riley. Austin Riley had a very good series, and
yes, he did.
Both of them, I don't want to make this a Braves podcast, but both of them like kind of stood up and kind of spoke to the media after Game 4, and kind of just accepted like the failure. They stood there and kind of just took it, and that's a big contrast to obviously Ronald Acuna Jr., who didn't even field questions after the game. I have respect for those guys, and they're all said and done. They were a good team, and they probably deserve to move on, but they ran into the Phillies. Nick Castellanos is the other big theme for Game 4. He has made a full 180 in his Phillies career here. I'm sure there's times last year where he was questioning whether he made the right choice. And this year he's turned it around both mentally and stat-wise. He's a force right now. He's always been streaky, but he seems to be pretty hot with the bat right now, and he's just embraced this Philly thing. You can tell that he knows what we expect of him at this point, and he is completely bought into the culture, the city, the emotion, and he's a guy who's just really fun to see on this big stage. And I'm glad he's finally getting his moment, because last year he didn't have a ton of moments with the bat.
Yeah, last year was honestly a bummer. Because me and you, we listen to post-game interviews. We know this guy is about as genuine as a human as can be, who just wants to be playing good ball. It's not like he wanted to have a bad year. So for him to have like this revenge tour 2023, and I would say like even during the regular season, his true power never really came out. And then those vicious swings in Game 4. Even Game 3. That was a vicious swing to tie it up too. Some real like rage behind that swing. It was awesome to see for him. Very happy for him.
There's something about just a big baseball player just dropping the barrel and just destroying a baseball. And there's not a ton of people who can do it, because obviously you have to be like a huge person to do it. He's a big guy, and when he drops the barrel like that and it just goes like, it's such a fun, like, easy thing to watch. It's so satisfying to see that. He's embraced Philly. His interviews are always hilarious. Full faith in the guy at this point. And Trey Turner with a solo shot, that was expected. He's been awesome. He's been here before, and he knows what he's doing. The last thing about this game, Rob Thompson has done a just incredible job juggling this bullpen. And what I was thinking about as I was watching it? Joe Girardi got a ton of credit in his Yankees tenure for managing that bullpen. They had the Dellin Betances of the world, Andrew Miller. he got a ton of credit when he was with the Yankees for just being a terrific bullpen manager. And you know who was there throughout all of that with Joe Girardi? Rob Thompson. And he looks like he learned a thing or two from Joe Girardi and what he was doing then. He's pulling strings that you and I, who we both understand baseball and just the balancing game within it, we're not even considering these things that he's doing that are working. You know, I was not expecting Matt Strahm to come into that game in the 9th inning. I was not expecting Craig Kimbrell to pitch in the 7th inning. Some of the things that he's doing are making me question just my general knowledge of baseball. But it worked. It all worked super well. I got a little scary there with the walks. I hate when pitchers walk. People just always, I hate walks. But it all ended up working out, and Kimbrell in the 7th inning gave us one of the best moments of Johan Rojas's career, the catch and the emotion there. I was floored. I was so nervous. It was the most nervous I've been watching a baseball game. And then just the 7th, 8th inning, I was holding on to my seat, just watching him manage the crap out of that baseball game. Hat tip to him. And, you know, the guys also have to execute. The arms have to execute. So hat tip to them as well. And well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Dude, Topper was on top of things. I mean, and I was watching like MLB Network a little bit, and they were mentioning that like it really isn't like analytics what he's doing. Like it's just like, sure, like there's numbers behind it, but he's attacking like this game like he knows it's important, like he has to win it at all costs. And you just value different innings differently. I mean, if you are in the meat of the order with a threat on base, that is the 9th inning. Like it changes. It's very cool to see Thompson do it and do it really effectively, because Philly would hate it if it didn't work.
You're right about that. He outmanaged Brian Snitker. That's one of the big. That's why we won too. He just outmanaged him.
Yeah, Snitker doesn't have really the bullpen we do either.
Yeah, that's true. So Ranger, we go to Sir Anthony, we go to Alvarado. Nothing super unexpected there. Kimbrell in the 7th was one of the just boldest baseball managerial moves I've ever seen. I don't even know Kimbrell's stats in the 7th. I don't know if he's good in that spot, but you obviously have the top of the lineup coming up, and you have Ronald Acuna coming into the game, who is as talented a baseball player as there is in the world. Just a spot that you don't know who's capable of managing that stress there other than Craig Kimbrell. You know, that's probably what it came down to. You wanted a righty who could just manage that spot, and Craig Kimbrell's been in plenty of those moments. You could make an argument that Kirkring probably could have gotten Acuna out there, but you went with experience and it worked out. And stressful spot.
All right, Josh, I got a question for you.
Yes.
As we kind of close up our recap, but when in this series did your heart drop the most? When Rojas hesitated on that fly ball that Acuna hit to left center, or when Harper's elbow got hit and he started grabbing it?
Oh, I was going to forget about that. Harper's elbow. That was the scariest moment of my baseball fandom. That was awful.
Yeah, that was a funny one, though, because I feel like literally 3 minutes after everyone realized, we're like, you texted me. It's like, well, you can't really you can't tear your UCL by getting bumped.
Watching Bryce Harper clutch his elbow in the 8th inning of Game 4 was the worst moment of my baseball life, because I thought that, or not just for it was kind of selfish, but I thought that like this was all over. I literally thought it was all over. I thought that was symbolic of something like awful happening. And Bryce Harper, if he had to start that over, it's awful. You know, I couldn't even think in the 9th inning because I was so worried. I was checking Twitter, trying to get like the inside scoop as to what happened. And then I saw the video, and it probably hurt really bad. You have this bone here, but to tear like the inner part of that, you have to like flex your arm in a very specific way. And I didn't really see that happening. So I kind of relaxed after that, but wow, the way he reacted, it was awful. That's the only way I can say it.
Dude, imagine being in his head. I mean, he just rehabbed the shit out of that thing. and like a beast, really. And that I'm sure he was probably so relieved that it was just a funny bone, because Jesus, that could have been bad.
Yeah, he came back out in the dugout, and collectively the whole city kind of sigh of relief. Comes back out in the 9th inning. Soto walks a bunch of people. Matt Strom comes in and closes the door, which wasn't expecting that. And second year in a row, Braves go home at the hands of the Phillies. And is it true that the Braves have never beat the Phillies in a playoff series? I didn't have a chance to check that, but I know Chase Elliott said that.
No, I don't think that's. What about
I can't remember. I can't remember.
What about all the 90s?
Well, I mean, once we were after 93, we weren't really that good for a while, so we wouldn't have ran into those really good Braves teams. 07, 08, 08, late in the 2000s. I don't remember them beating us, and then obviously they haven't beat us recently. I don't know. Someone should fact check
deeper
that.
Into it.
And then the Braves, when did they even get there? Like 70s? They're not super old, right? They were in Milwaukee first or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know their history as well as ours.
Okay. No, I don't think they've beaten us. And if that's really true, wow. Must suck to be a Braves fan, and let's keep that rolling. But big picture here. Now that the Braves are out of it, and now that the rest of the 100-win teams are out of it, the Brewers are home. The Brewers went home in the wild card series. The Phils are tied for the best record left in the playoffs. You have 3 wild card teams left, and the Houston Astros, who we ran into last year, who did not have as good of a season this year. But that's obviously the next stage after what we are kind of facing now, and that is the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are. Do you want to do our little switch here? Let's do the little switch here. Sorry, we have a kind of rookie producer here. Everything okay over there?
You can get my
Sorry for our technical difficulties. Let's wrap that here. We'll be back soon to do a little preview for the next series.